do you mean no one cares? I went to it. Oh, we're live.
Yeah,
No one cares about me, but they care about Let's Drone Out. Jack,
I care about you.
Play for sympathy.
I care about you. I might not remember that conversation, but I care.
Oh, you'll remember it when we.
I will remember it. It'll come back to me in a flood.
Unless it was somebody else. But I'm sure I've got you in my phone as Neil, so I'm sure it was you that I spoke to.
Probably was. It probably was.
Right, go, Jack.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Let's Drone Out. Tonight, you are joined by Andrew/Frank.
Hello.
And ERC.
Good evening, everybody. What happened there? I heard Jack say hello twice.
Oh, it's probably because I'm trying to fix my setup, and you can probably hear a little bit of feedback from me. I'm sorry.
Hello, everybody.
Nigel, I think.
Yes. Well done. Yeah. Hi, everyone.
And you're from Rotor Rush.
Indeed.
And we've got Ray.
Yeah, if you can hear me, I'm here as well.
Yes, we can.
We've got my little Tony.
Bonjour.
Everyone's favourite curry kitten.
Hello. Getting younger, apparently, according to the chat.
And Chad Kappa, according to everybody.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you be taking your trousers off and getting them embroidered? That's going to date this episode.
I haven't seen that video. I've just seen some.
Mate, you're in for a treat.
Thumbnail of it.
I'm bright until I fly, and I've also got a hostage, which is an old host, in fact.
Old host, yeah.
Come.
Hello, world.
Clint. Entrance.
Clint.
FPV.
So you don't need me, Jack, after the show, then, it turns out. Yeah. Oh, but yeah, even on the live stream, Wayne, people were the live stream of the I-Series that was at the UK Drone Show. People were like, "Is Chad Kappa at the UK Drone?"
Even the host.
I should start charging for appearances, and I could come as Chad Kappa and make it more popular.
He's changed his hair to look like Chad. Look,
I changed my hair to make me not look like Chad.
No, you've made it worse.
And he grew a beard, so he doesn't look like me. But yeah, we're interchangeable somehow.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
No.
Separated at birth.
Yeah. Ignore me.
What are you drinking?
How did we get Rotor Rush on here? Like someone sensible.
Oh, we took them hostage. We talked to them at the drone show on Saturday.
Yeah.
And, we had a very nice conversation, and we made Frank book them because he had his spreadsheet out on his phone.
No way.
Come on the show.
Go, Frank.
I'm sorry, I'm a bit disorganised. I had a bit of a PC disaster, and my my graphics card died. So Clint fixed it. Thank you, Clint. Yeah.
So can I tell you the conversation we had? Because perhaps that's the good intro for Rotor Rush.
Can we also explain that we haven't gone through all the intros, have we? Or did we?
Yeah. Yes.
We've got Nigel, Ray, Andy.
You've been through that, Andy.
Sorry, man. I'm.
How much sleep you had?
Neil Potter.
Well, you see? Can you see all of this here?
Oh wow, you got some work to do.
I wish that was all of the things I had to do, but that is what turned up in the post today.
Happy Christmas.
Yeah, you'd think so, except each one of those boxes is
9 hours.
Is 16 hours of constant work. I had 4 hours sleep last night. I've been up since 5 this morning. My aim is to go to bed at 12. So there you go. Poor me, eh?
Oh, my diamond shoes are too tight.
my shoes are slip-ons, and I took them to the drone show, and it was so funny actually that everyone referenced it, wasn't it, from the video? Yeah, people were like, "Oh man, you tell the truth even to the point of what shoes you wear," and I'm like, "Yeah, You can't bullshit on YouTube.
No.
So,
Sorry, kid.
let me tell you what Rotor Rush are doing there, because we met them at the drone show, and I was talking about Sims, and I said, to be honest, I haven't looked at it because Rotor Rush uses a subscription model, and I didn't like the idea of carry on paying for something. But Nigel came up with like lots of things that he does, and I thought, well, that's very good. Why does nobody know about this? And it's mainly because A, Nigel doesn't tell them, and B, they probably just look at the price and sort of move on. So we wanted to get you on the show to let you explain the extra bits that Rotor Rush does, because obviously it's a sim, but you guys are taking that subscription money and doing stuff with it, aren't you? Which I thought, well, that's a really nice sort of ethos to have. Please explain.
Explain yourself.
First of all, can I just say that Rotor Rush is not a sim? The sim is just a part of what Rotor Rush is, and I think this is what we've been pretty poor at explaining and getting that message across.
Well, I've already got it wrong in the first 2 minutes now, so yeah.
And that's our fault.
Can I just say as well, Rotor Rush was the first. As soon as it came out, I paid for it, and I've still got it. I definitely need to check it out though, how it has changed. The last time I checked it out, there was a Tiny Whoop thing, and that was fun.
Yeah, well, Tiny Whoop's grown a lot since. There's a lot of more Tiny Whoop tracks on there, and there's been a lot of work done on the front end. Just on the sim itself, first of all, we've stuck to our guns. We've always tried to make sure that Rotor Rush is as realistic as possible, and that's what we've always tried to do. We've stayed away from the gamey sort of view and kept it as professional as possible. We work closely with Jesse Perkins from Tiny Whoop, and there's lots of Tiny Whoop tracks in there, and being released soon. There's a training dome, which is important, because I know I'll link on to this is some of the extras that you were mentioning that we do, and obviously that's the main sim part of it. We're going to be releasing this week, I believe, X Class into the sim, the official X Class.
Cool.
So we've been working with Noah Furman from X Class in California, and we've been working on the flight characteristics, the sound. We've done real sound sampling from X Class drones, so that's been released this week. So if you're interested in building an X Class and you haven't flown one yet, it will give you the opportunity to find out what it feels like to fly an X Class, because it is completely different. There's so much, especially in the corners. But Rotor Rush it's a community, it's not a sim. And this is what's important. This is where we fail to get the message across. So when you pay that subscription or that one-off yearly fee, a large majority of that money goes back into the other projects that we're doing. The main one of note is the Rotor Rush Academy. And we give the same sim that you guys have flown and tried to schools all over the world, not just in the UK. And schools that sign up to the Academy get all the software and the backup and the support for free, absolutely free. There's no hidden costs. They get 5 licenses for each school. And then working with local race groups, we try our best to put them in touch with local race groups, because we work with all the race organisations around the world, or most of them anyway. So we link these schools up with local race groups and race organisations, so that when these young people in the schools use the sim to learn to fly, there's then support from local race groups to teach them how to build their first drones. And then they've got a link then to go from the school into the actual sport. So what we're hoping to do is to help grow our sport and our hobby by giving them, one, a means to learn to fly within the schools, and then secondly, to build and then to start to fly within the full race community. So, and we've got a number of success stories. The main one of note, there's a STEM school in the US called Mind Drive, and they've linked in with their local multi-GP chapter, and they've actually taught a number of kids now to fly, build, and these are now competitive pilots within the multi-GP leagues in the US. and it works really well. And we do all of this for free. So the money that you pay, or the normal user pays towards Rotor Rush, is helping to fund this project and grow the sport commercially with the local race groups.
That's great as well, because we often talk about on the show the decline of interest in this hobby, and that's doing the opposite. That is giving it exposure and free access to have a go at this, and putting it in people's heads that, oh man, this is something that I could do and get good at. So I didn't realize that.
The other thing that we do as well, the second part of where the money goes to, is if you go on Rotor Rush, you'll notice that we have all the official tracks. We're very proud of that, of most of the main race organisations. FPV Mexico, the BDRA here in the UK, KDRA in Korea. We're in India, Russia, Canada. God, I could list all the different.
Do you know that is exactly why I subscribed to Rotor Rush, because having my YouTube channel, I thought, do you know what? How good am I against these top pilots? So I went on to your there's like a list of fastest times, fastest pilots.
Yeah.
And there was Banny UK at the time who when I bought Rotor Rush was at the top, and I'm like, right, I'm gonna see how close I can get to Banny UK, and I was about 300 people down the rank. And that's what I loved about Rotor Rush. And I also loved, you touched on it there, it was at the time, I think other sims have improved for sure, but at the time it was the most realistic, not graphics intensive, so you don't have to have like a crazy good computer, but that doesn't matter, because it was the most going through gates and stuff, and going through real gates was the most accurate for me, and that was what I thought was most important about Rotor Rush.
Well, we've always tried to keep it as realistic as possible, and we often we have real pilots trying it for us, and whenever we put in new flight characteristics, we don't do that. We get the pilots to tell us, right, yes, it feels right, it doesn't. For example, when Tiny Whoop, they put in a new one of these whoops, he does an extensive testing process until we've got it absolutely right. But I just want to finish off on the race organisations, and I'm glad you've used it, because you get a chance to fly against pilots around the world. But as well as giving Rotor Rush free to the schools, every race organisation that works with us, we put their tracks in the sim for free. We don't charge them. We allow them to put their sponsors on the track. We don't charge them for that. We don't take any kickbacks whatsoever. So the only funding that comes into Rotor Rush is from the user. But that money is helping your race organisation, whichever one you're affiliated to, whether you're in the UK, US, Korea, wherever. It's helping that race organisation to promote itself, to grow, to allow it to bring in sponsorship, so that they can carry on putting on competitions for the pilots. And we do all of that basically for free. Now, maybe we should have been advertising this and telling the world better about what we do with the funds that come in. But now we're doing it now. So through you guys. So hopefully
it's kind of tricky as well, because you've got all of this competition from like free rider, liftoff, Velocidrome, and then there's like another one I saw on UAV Future. So that's probably why you're struggling to get the information out there. But I've done videos on Rotor Rush. I should do more videos on Rotor Rush, and I want to talk about the conversation that you and me had on the phone for 40 minutes that you can't remember because of alcohol.
Are you sure you weren't just hearing voices at the time, Andy?
Well,
You're the only person that remembers this.
Let's put this to the test, okay? It wasn't called Rotor Rush initially, was it? What was it? What was it called?
Initially, it was FPV Events, that was its first incarnation, and then it was FPV Events for a while, and then we decided to do a rebrand and really bring it together, and that's when we changed the name to Rotor Rush, I guess it was a while ago then. If it wasn't Rotor Rush then when we had that conversation, that's quite a while ago.
Okay,
I've definitely slept since then.
I've definitely drunk a lot of Coca-Cola since then, which skews my mind. It's just Coca-Cola for anyone asking.
It's a very small glass for Coca-Cola.
It looks a bit pale for Coca-Cola, doesn't it? But it's Aldi's own version, so that's the reason why. Okay, so the conversation that we had, it lasted probably about 40 minutes, and it sounds like Rotor Rush didn't go in the direction that it did when we were talking about it. To give some context, I was driving on the way to my ex-girlfriend's house. And boo to her. Although she's vegan, Tony, so yeah.
Hurrah, boo!
I was in the car and I stopped the car because I thought, man, this is important. And at the time it was like, don't mention that it's changing to Rotor Rush, and the conversation that we had was regarding how sims were going to be used. In that, I think the idea that you talked about was that there's a lot of these races that go on, but a lot, because they're all over the world and people are busy, they can't attend races. And I think your idea was to turn Rotor Rush into a complete sort of online series where it was like real racing except through the sim. So
well, we've actually done that. We actually have done that. That, I guess, is the third element of Rotor Rush. So the eSports, I think, is the word that we're looking for, side of Rotor Rush, there has been a lot of work on that. And again, this is something that people don't really know about. What we've developed, or when I say we, Ray's done all of the work. He's the genius behind, Ray's very quiet there in the background, but Ray's the genius behind Rotor Rush. And
I'm not aware of Ray, so is Ray the...
I think Ray should say hello.
Yeah. I'm here. Yeah,
it's always there.
You can tell because the word Ray's on the screen. That's the giveaway.
I can see that, but is Ray... I've only spoken to Nigel. Is Ray the coder, the builder?
He's the inventor, the genius.
The way I would describe him, he's the wizard behind the curtain.
Yes. Does that make me Dorothy? Does that make me Dorothy? I have got some red shoes.
We don't believe you. We want to see them.
So the eSports side of it, we've got a separate control system, which allows those that are given access to it to set up a live online competition. They can set how many laps it is. It's got a start grid. It's got a pit lane, exactly the same as any other competition. And you can run live online competitions exactly the same as a real race. And everything we talked about, we have actually done. And this is being used by race organisations now. In Australia, FPVR use it a lot, and they've been running online competitions. DDC in Spain, and they've been running online competitions as well. They've run several successful leagues, and they're doing a big one this year. But we offer this system to every race organisation that's a member of Rotor Rush, and if they wish to put on live competitions, then they can, and a number of them have as well. Maybe you may not have seen them online. It's down to them to promote that, but we again give them this tool to use for free. Tiny Whoop, Jesse Perkins and Steve Neutron use the same system, and they're running live events, Tiny Whoop events, online events regularly, and they've got a league running at the moment, and they live stream that. The whole system is live streamable with cameras around the track that you can switch to, and those that use it are able to switch between cameras from on board, and cameras that automatically track the drones in line of sight view around the track. So yeah, all of these features, I guess, your general user might not know about, but they are there.
I guess it's just the marketing side of actually, getting this out there, with maybe because everything multi-rotor wise is online. And I mean, I didn't know about it. I've spoken to you, but I didn't know that actually this had been implemented. So I guess it's about making it aware that when these events are happening, and trying to promote it and share it as much as possible and stuff.
It sounds
well,
good.
We should have been.
It sounds like LDO could we could race our patrons and have a patrons night of racing then.
Of course you could.
Yeah.
And we'd help. I'm sure Ray would be happy to let you guys have access to the control system and set your own live online event up, and you can live stream it. They're a lot of fun. You can invite people to come in and race with you.
We've actually done that with Velocidrone. I think the reason why we didn't do it with Rotor Rush is that the price is slightly higher than the rest of them. So I think that is the only reason. But what you're saying is the price is higher because it's actually funding
other things. Yeah.
Yes.
Other things. So everybody, I've got Rotor Rush. So if all of you guys now can go and subscribe to Rotor Rush, and then we'll organise an online race. Or
if you go on the website, there is actually a free trial. If anybody's worried whether it'll run on their system or they just want to try it and say, well, okay, let's give it a go. There is a free trial. You go on the website, you get, is it 2 weeks free to try it, Ray?
Yeah, it's 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can try it yourself, and if you guys want to set up a live online event, we'll help you do that. And anybody who wants to join you and they haven't already got it, they can always get the free trial and see how it goes. It's a lot of fun. The live events are a lot of fun.
Sounds like a plan.
Or perhaps we could set up some sort of deal, being a podcast and having a voice and thing. I'm just kidding.
So. Nigel, what was the other thing I tried? Because the other thing you had there, was it a separate product? You got me to put the VR goggles on and basically. So
we have got a separate product that's not on general release just yet. But
should I not have mentioned it?
No, it's fine. It's fine because I'm very proud of it, because I'm very proud of Ray, and I think Ray's one of the most modest guys I've ever met in my entire life, because the stuff that he's done on Rotor Rush is absolutely incredible. And you guys tried that. It's basically a commercial version, if you like, of Rotor Rush, and through using VR, you're able to fly line of sight, and it's as if you stood in the field and you're flying line of sight. And it also has the detached camera. So the idea is, if you've got a DJI Phantom, that kind of drone, you can learn to line of sight fly and control your camera, get your right camera angles. We've got a number of scenarios within that allow you to, if you're a commercial pilot and maybe doing building surveys, etc., you can use it for that.
Is that what that big blow up dome thing was, or am I completely?
No, that's the wrong place.
That was the other thing.
I'm sorry. I won't say what Jack called that. He called it a blow up naughty
I call it an
park.
inflatable orifice. I think that's the kind
Did
of.
the entrance to that did look like a certain lady pad, didn't it, if I'm being honest?
But just to give some context to that sort of commercial thing, a friend of mine was just telling me a couple of weeks ago he did the commercial course. It used to be called the BNUC. I can't remember what they call it now. And he's sort of an experienced pilot coming into this, and the flight test for him was easy. And despite like days of doing all this sort of flight manual and stuff like that, a lot of the guys that were coming into it were very new to it and could barely get around the course. So having something, because the one I flew was inspection of the big wind turbines, which
that's
was
right,
fun to do. And I could use the VR goggles to like look around for my line of sight, and I had sort of visor thing that gives me through the Phantom. And I thought that was a really good thing, because you were talking about some interesting scenarios there, like the shark spotting in Australia or dropping life things to swimmers. I wouldn't want that being done by someone who hasn't got the experience doing it. It's like,
well, that scenario has not been put in as a test. That actual scenario is being used by in Australia by lifeguards who are being taught to use drones, and they're using that our simulator to practice finding swimmers in difficulty and using the camera so that they can aim the flotation aid and drop it in the right place, and actually spot sharks. So these are real. It's being used for real. And speaking to there was a lot of academies there that teach commercial drone pilots, and they were very interested in it. Now they were saying the same as you, that they're getting a lot of people coming along, and although they may be even commercial pilots, have private pilot licenses, etc. And they know the theory side of it, but when it comes to actually flying a drone line of sight, they've got very little experience, could barely fly it at all. And so, yeah, I think there needs to be a tool where people can practice without fear of crashing something that's so expensive as well. I think
So, just to give some context, sadly, I didn't get to try out any of the VR stuff, but what do you need? You said it's not released yet, right? But but if you've got some VR goggles, you've got a bit of software that you can learn how to fly line of sight. I got an Oculus Rift here.
That's what we were using at the show. Yeah.
Well, you got my email address, so if you fancy, I
think this would be a good time for Ray to actually join the conversation. I think
I'll make a video on it. I've got an Oculus Rift right here, so
one thing I'd just jump in there and say is that since the very first UK drone show 2015, Rotor Rush, or FPV event as it was then, has always supported the Oculus Rift. So if you've got Rotor Rush today, you can actually fly in the Oculus VR.
How does that work though? Because you're on board, so what you can look around on the copter.
There's a virtual visor thing so you've got your line of sight view, and you've got. There's been a couple of classes, hasn't there, where they've got this single visor, so you can essentially do line of sight and FPV at the same time.
Yeah, there is two things here though. Rotor Rush, you can set up your view up so you are as if you're on the front of the quadcopter, and for most people that's absolutely amazing for about a minute. But because it's so immersive and your body's telling you no, I'm not moving, but your eyes is saying yes, I am. Most people can only handle that for about a minute. The difference with the commercial is that it's all line of sight. So when you're commercially flying, you're actually watching a helicopter and looking at a little screen separate to it. So that works really well.
So when you say commercial, you're talking about selling it to people who are flying drones for a hobby, for
surveying and stuff.
So yeah, exactly.
Or even your DJI fan, who wants to do some filming, and they want to be able to learn to angle the drone and then control the camera. Because if you think about it, they're actually doing two things at once. They're almost FPVing when they're looking into that camera, but at the same time, flying line of sight. It's a lot to get your head around. And I think, there's not been a tool out there where you can practice that without putting your very expensive camera drone in jeopardy, or so that's what it aims to address. And then you've got your more commercial pilots who want to actually practice doing whether it's surveying a power lines or a building, or practicing spotting sharks in water, whatever it might be.
So to do that, you'll need an Oculus Rift, yeah.
You don't have to have an Oculus Rift, but that immersive way of experiencing it is best. You can just work with an ordinary screen.
Okay.
You see the line of sight, and then there's a small screen in the left, which is your camera view.
Does it work with the Hive as well, and also the Samsung that one as well?
In theory, yes, but we haven't tested it, so I wouldn't say so. I mean, we know the Oculus Rift works. That's all I can say.
Well, it won't take Ray long to get everything working.
Ray, I just want to check you haven't been locked out of your house, because it looks like you're sort of leaning against the door.
The reason I'm leaning against the door is because my
His new EP's going to drop.
And if I sit in my normal seat, I look like the Hulk, glowing green. So I'm just
people
out in the corner.
I think he's got developers banging on his door trying to steal his stuff.
Can you ask if it works with a DK2?
DK2 was the very first Oculus Rift.
Development.
Oh no, isn't the DK2 the current Oculus Rift?
I don't know.
No, DK2 is the development kit, and the latest software from Oculus doesn't support the DK2. And it's development kit 2. Yeah, we've got 2 of those, and we can't use them with the latest software, so it's a bit frustrating.
So it's only the current Oculus Rift that you can buy as a consumer that will work with Rotor Rush.
Yeah, unless you've got an old PC with the original software on, then it'll work. But yeah, all the latest software from Oculus only works with the latest kit.
What I find really interesting is when you do, the standard Rotor Rush, the commercial. We're thinking of the name Rotor Pilot, I think it'll be called, to differentiate it from Rotor Rush, because Rotor Rush is a racing sim and it's different. But that's actually VR capable, and it always has been, and nobody actually tries it. But if you put your Oculus Rift on an FPV race in full VR, it's quite cool. I love it. I don't feel sick, but some people start to feel sick after a while because it's just too much. But for me, I actually love it. I must be one of those weird people that doesn't get seasick. But
well, it's all to do with
Andy, you should give it a go.
It's all to do with refresh rates, from what I've discovered, because I get
because we were chatting about that at Bandai Namco.
Yeah, I get motion sickness. So if I'm in a car, I can't look at a phone for any more than like 30 seconds without feeling sick. But, and that was my worry about buying an Oculus.
If you're driving, you can do it.
You shouldn't say that, Tony. About to leave. No. That was a joke. What Tony just said for everybody.
So, we were talking about the Bandai Namco had the PSVR, and we did notice that they dropped the resolution, and we'd assumed that was to keep the frame rate up, to stop people feeling a bit weird about it. I played through the entirety of GoldenEye and the N64 1 hour at a time, because I had to keep lying down because I felt that sick about it. It's something to do with the field of view angles as well for me, as well as the refresh rate.
It's not the frame rate. Yeah, it's the refresh rate, exactly. So I think the Oculus Rift works at 90 hertz, and it's all to do with your eyes seeing things that your body isn't feeling. And I believe that the higher the refresh rate, the less motion sickness you've got. So when I use my Oculus, there's a fantastic app where you can be in the space station, and I can be in that like for hours and hours and not feel sick. But
are you sure it's that one that you're in there for hours and hours, and not the nudie girl one?
Well, the one that you're talking about, Tony, I only need to be in for about 30 seconds. So but the International Space Station, I can be. But yeah, the resolution is low because at the moment, because in order to do that, the refresh rate has to be high. To have like 4K at 90 hertz at the moment, I guess would be very expensive. And the Hive have just released their new one, and apparently it's like, wasn't it like 800 quid, and you don't even get the sensors or something like that. But yeah, the biggest problem with VR, and NJ Tech, who's not here, NJ, you should be here because it's your fault I bought an Oculus Rift. With VR, you get something called screen door effect, and screen door effect is basically just because you could, it's just the pixels that you can see, and even the most expensive Hive has got this, and but I can see in the future it becoming better and accessible, as because you have to have a fast computer, don't you, for VR as well. That's the other thing. Well, that's what I found anyways. But yeah, I'll take a look at Rotor Rush in VR, and if you fancy sending over this commercial thing, because that's another thing as well. DJI have just released a simulator, haven't they? What do you reckon about that?
Yeah, it is out there. We've had a few commercial pilots come back to us. Certainly, it's not rated particularly highly at the moment, so that's good for us.
What the
DJI one? Yeah, very very expensive. Yeah.
Have you not done the sneaky download to take a look at it and see if they're missing things?
I done a video on it.
A couple of £100 to get it or something, isn't it? Really expensive, I've heard.
Well, I don't know, because what happened was, as
Don't say you downloaded it off a torrent site, Andy. That won't go down well.
What's a torrent, Wayne? You're gonna have to teach me this. Is it
something Jack told me about? I
don't know. No, I downloaded the trial version, and I wanted to buy the full version, but it turns out that I don't think you can do that yet. I went to buy it, and I had to email them, and they emailed me back and sort of said, what it's more of a custom thing, the DJI simulator. I think it's like, okay, what I think it's also aimed at the commercial side of things, and they were asking questions. Well, what are you using it for? Is it for inspecting power lines? Is it gutters? Is it roofs? And that's where it kind of lost me, because I was like, no, it's for making a YouTube video. So
you should have said spying on women, just to see what sim they send back to you.
Yeah, we won't go into that, because do you know that's the number one thing that people say to me.
Everybody asks about them. Who are you spying on? So
when I'm flying on my field and someone comes up to me, they say, "Oh, are you looking through somebody's window?" And I'm like, why would I want to
100 miles an hour? Yeah.
Why would I want to do that when there is VR? There's some VR options that is much more real.
You're telling too much now.
Than looking through somebody's window. We're back to that 30-second comments that I
was going to ask the question why your Oculus looks so well used. I'm starting to understand.
Yeah, you don't need to ask anymore.
It's got a lot of white marks on it, but it's
come on, this game.
Man, that's Jack territory.
So
it's off the fingers though. The Oculus, when you touch it with your fingers,
sweat.
The bits of your skin come off, and it goes on the Oculus. It's that type of material which I don't like about it. Anyways, we've gone off topic.
Can I bring it back to topic? Because I just want to tell you about something else that we're about to release.
Please.
When we've been working with the schools and the race organisations, we've found that there's something missing. And the thing that we found missing is communication. And it's partly because we've discovered that we've not been telling the world what we're doing, and we need a way to do that. But also, we've got quite a few academies around the world, and we wanted a way for them to talk to each other. And then we thought, well, wouldn't it be good if the race organisations could talk to each other? And then wouldn't it be good if the pilots could communicate as well? So at the minute, everybody either uses Facebook, and unless you're in that Facebook group or you're linked with friends, it's very hard to find information. So we're going to be launching very soon what we've called the Community Hub. It's not a very exciting name, but it does describe what it is really well. So anybody who's a member of Rotor Rush, whether that's an academy, a race organisation, a group, a team, because there's teams as well. There's quite a few teams racing in Rotor Rush as well. They'll be able to see other academies, other race organisations, and link with each other. And the idea being that through our system, they'll be able to, an academy will be able to find their local race organisation and ask for help or show them what they're doing and get that link. Race organisations will be able to find other race organisations or groups. They will be able to find academies, etc. So basically, it's all of the different people that use Rotor Rush, and it's giving them a means to communicate with each other. Built into that is a newsletter that's automated, and people can tell their stories and what events they've got going on and the great stuff that they're doing, and it automatically sends it out to everybody. And yeah, it's a really great tool that me and Ray have developed. Ray's done all the hard work, the coding, and I just tell him what it should look like. And we're about to launch that. It's called Community Hub. So I'm hoping that it will make a difference.
Well, I'll tell you what the other guys did, as in Velocidrone and Liftoff, because they both approached me, and I can help you with this as well. You talk about Facebook. I think Facebook is big in the FPV community, but for the moment, there are some really big YouTubers that can get this information out as well. So I'm friends with like huge YouTubers like UAV Futures. Jack can sort you out with Joshua Bardwell, and Painless 360, and all kinds of people like that. If you can, as well as the Facebook thing, people the whole multi-rotor thing. It's funny actually, because the line of sight non-FPV stuff is non-existent on YouTube, but the multi-rotor stuff, it's all about YouTube, and I think that's because it's very video orientated, GoPros, DVR, and stuff like that. So my advice would be to maybe try and promote it through there, as well as Facebook, because Facebook has got huge communities and stuff. I'd be willing to do stuff on it. Wayne, I've just volunteered you to do stuff on it as well.
I guess the message we're trying to get across is there's a lot of tools on Rotor Rush, and there's a lot of stuff in Rotor Rush that is there for people to use. There are a lot of race groups out there that could have their own track within Rotor Rush and use it for promoting themselves, and 99.9% of the time it's completely free, and we do this to help the community, and we've not been very good at communicating that. Everybody's seen the quality of the maps and everything in Rotor Rush and how realistic they are, and even some of the smaller groups that have got we've been approached by we're going to be doing a track for Delta Hawks and groups like that. You all know these guys, you know, and we're happy to put those tracks in Rotor Rush so that you can promote your own track, you know, and we want to build the community, and so you need to, you know, we want people to get in touch with us and start using the tools that Ray spent such a long time perfecting. I guess there's been a little bit of, we've not wanted to push it too much until it was perfect, and I guess we've been a bit too perfectionist, I think, in what we've been doing. But it's there now and it works, and we need to push it out now, and we want the community to start using it. And like I said, 99.9% of Rotor Rush is free to the people that are benefiting from it, and it's only those that use it as a simulator, and it's that subscription that's paying for all of it.
So let me play devil's advocate for a moment, if I may. So
go for it.
I love the stuff that you're doing with the academy stuff, and I brilliant that the groups are getting their tracks onto it, and I can really see the appeal for that. But to explain it for either tightwads like me or people that use a sim when it's really bad weather, it's not like I want to come on and do a sim because I like flying a sim. I want to fly a sim when it's like, oh, it's so bad, I haven't been able to fly for ages. I'll pop on a sim for a while. How are we converting these people over? Because that's when it comes back to the subscription thing. It's like, I've got like Velocidrone and Liftoff because it's a one-off, but I don't want to play them. I want to, you know, I want to go outside and fly my quad instead. Mm-hmm. So I only come back to them either when it's really bad or we happen to do a live stream on Velocidrone, for example. So how do we get people?
We're never going to please everybody. Velocidrone and Liftoff are cheaper than us, and we do know that, and we constantly look at the price point. But we're confident that what we offer, when you pay that subscription, if you go down the subscription, bear in mind you can actually pay a one-off year. Well, it's a yearly fee, so it's still a subscription, I suppose. But when you pay that, it's what you're joining a community, you're joining a group, and you're helping to fund all of these other projects. So that's what that's part of. You're not, if you just want to use the sim now and again, and it's just for that, and you're not interested in these other groups, then Rotor Rush probably isn't the choice for you. And there are other sims out there, and they're very good sims. We're not, you know, Velocidrone is an excellent sim, and so is Liftoff. But if you want to know that some of that money, whether you're using it or not, is helping to fund these other projects, and you know, then maybe the appeal for Rotor Rush is more than you thought it was. It's our job to show you where that money's going, and that's what we haven't done.
I don't think anyone knows.
No, exactly. And that's why we're on here tonight talking to you guys, and we thank you very much for that. And we'll be doing a lot more of that. And we, you know, you will see a lot more coming out on social media about what we've been doing and the success stories and stories from the various schools and academies that we're in, and the race organisations as well. We will do a much better job of communicating what those funds have been doing and will continue to do in the future. The reason that we're not going to change from a subscription is, first of all, a one-off payment isn't a very good business plan, because once that money's in, it's never going to repeat, and we'd never have any money to continue to do these projects with academies and stuff. So we need a rolling income to allow us to continue to fund these projects that we're doing. And secondly, we don't want to go down the route of free-to-play with micro-purchases, because they are, I don't believe in them. They cost you more in the long run. Everybody knows that, you know, these free-to-play games that are all over Facebook, and you think it's free, and before you know it, you've spent £30–40 in a month just trying to keep up with everybody. So just to buy the latest skin, everything else. When you pay that subscription, every update, every new track you get, there's never any hidden costs with Rotor Rush. So we don't want to go down the free-to-play with micro-purchases for that reason. And we can't really afford to go down the one-off payment route, because we want to carry on funding these great projects that we're doing. So that's the answer to it. If it's not your thing, then that's a shame. It's, you know, we'd like to have lots and lots more users, but maybe if we show the value of where that money goes, will you know, people will start to see the value better in Rotor Rush.
Have you thought about having a YouTube channel?
We've got a YouTube channel. We've not been very good at putting the stuff on there, and we're looking at improving on that. And yeah, just watch this space. Ray's actually doing a lot of work on that and looking into it at the moment, isn't he? And we're happy to take advice from people like yourselves. You guys are the experts on.
Well, it'd be great just to see like what's going on. You know, a nice 5-6 minute film of, you know, the schools seeing kids building.
While you're talking,
and
have a chat with Ray. Let Ray, you answer some questions. I'm going to put into the chat group a link to a video that actually shows one of the stories of an academy in the US where they've used Rotor Rush, linked into the local race group, and these two young men featured in this video are now competitive pilots. And this video sums up everything that I've been talking about. So I'll get you the link to that now. I'll raise.
Have you thought about getting Rotor Rush on Steam? Because Liftoff, like Steam is a huge platform, and that's where Liftoff is. And I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people into FPV are also gamers. Not so much myself, but these guys, a lot of these guys definitely are. What's the deal? Have you considered Steam?
Yeah, we have considered Steam. Obviously, that's the whole ecosystem in itself. One thing you need to know about Rotor Rush is you download the sim, and you've got that software on your PC. But our whole infrastructure, our race control, and a lot of the community hub that Nigel's just been talking about is actually out there on the global cloud. So, for instance, if you wanted to run a race event, all your pilots would have Rotor Rush on their computer, but you would be logging into our cloud system. So I wouldn't rule it out, but we wanted to have specifically a very pro race control system, and that's what's sitting in the cloud right now. It enables us to do a lot more to integrate the races, the community, and everything else by having our own infrastructure. I mean, it's not our own; it runs on the Google World Cloud.
Yeah, I do like how when you open it, and if there's an update, you click it and it updates, which is very similar to Steam. It's just that Steam has become sort of like the standard. I'm just trying to think of ways of, you know, of helping you guys to because for me, I mean, you can watch my Liftoff videos, you can watch my Velocidrome videos, and every time I will say that Rotor Rush is more realistic. It doesn't have the graphics, but it's more realistic. And Wayne, recently you did a race and you went through gates, and you probably haven't tried Rotor Rush, but if you try Rotor Rush, compare it to Liftoff, and when you go through a gate, it's exactly the same as going through an actual
although
gate.
we did disagree about Liftoff and Velocidrome, because I still felt Velocidrome was the more accurate sim.
Yeah, but
you thought that Liftoff beat it.
Yeah, that's true, but Rotor Rush is even better. Try it.
Well, I will certainly try it. What I was going to say to Nigel is that perhaps if people who are, I'd say, casual users or like begrudgingly have to use a sim when it's raining, perhaps if there's more to it and there's a community hub, that's going to make us dive in and use things a bit more often, use all the facilities you do have there. Yeah. We'll try and see.
That's what we're hoping as well. You know, and I haven't put it in the public chat because it wouldn't let me on your YouTube chat there. The link to that video that I just mentioned.
Someone needs to mod Nigel.
I've just posted that link in there.
But I've posted the link into the Hangouts one, so maybe one of you guys could copy and paste it over. That's got
that over there now. So
wonderful. But that is a really good example of you know, how the projects that we're funding and supporting are actually really are helping to teach young people how to fly and get into the sport and the hobby. and they're actually now competitive pilots. So it does work, and the projects aren't just us just trying to make things look better and please buy Rotor Rush because we're doing all this cool stuff. This is real. We've been doing this for a long time, and supporting race organisations for a long time, and we've never charged any of them. And yeah, it's our fault. We need to tell you guys and the community what we've been doing and where that money goes, and maybe then you'll understand why the cost of Rotor Rush is where it is at the moment.
Well, last little question on that tack. If anyone does have a school or other organisation that they want to bring this sort of thing to, what's the way to go about doing that?
Well, if they go to the one way is to go to the website, and there's information on there. We are updating the website at the moment, but the information is on there, and the contact details are on there. And just email us at info@rotorrush.com. And if you've got a school that's interested, then we're more than happy to hear from that school, and we'll look at getting them registered as an academy. There's quite a lot of schools down south that are using this, and it's great. We go to some of the events, and it's wonderful to see the kids learning to fly. Some of them are using tiny whoops. They tend to use the tiny whoops because there's no health and safety issues for the schools. So but they're even going down the route of 3D printing their own frames and building their own gates and tracks and having races in the classroom. And very soon we'll be launching the Academy League. So this will allow so schools and colleges that are using Rotor Rush. So rather than the young people learning racing against each other, which they can do at the moment, they'll be able to race against other schools. So that then gives them a taste of the wider competition and the wider hobby, to further encourage them to get out there and fly, in clubs and stuff. So
sounds good. Getting fatter, kids.
So what we need to do then is set up a Let's Drone Out school so that we can get Rotor Rush for free, and then we can all, because we've done a few live streams of Velocidrone and Liftoff.
I want to race the X class.
That's interesting. I'm looking forward to having a go at that. Did you ever go at it at the UK Drone Show, Tony?
I didn't have time, but I'm gonna have a go.
There was one kid that tried it. Some of the people that came on our stall are Rotor Rush users, and they obviously know how to change all their rates and everything else. We had it set up for beginners, so ideally people who were coming to the show to find out about drones, and that was great. But there was a few of them, and so we said, hey, it's released next week, but we've got X class now. Do you want to have a go? And one of them in particular changed all the rates and started freestyling X class, which I don't know if that's going to be a future sport, but it certainly looked cool.
I've done it. It's good.
Yeah, copters need to get for spectator sport. Copters need to get bigger. I received a 7-inch freestyle model, and I thought, oh, this is just nothing, and the views on it exploded, and people want bigger quads, and I think it's just because of the spectacle. Now, when we were at the UK Drone Show, it was a great show to watch the racing, but all you could see was just a single LED flying around, and obviously X Class changes that.
It does, and I think when I was in South Korea in November for the DSI event, for the International Drone Racing Competition, we had meetings. All the race organisers and members of DSI had meetings, and one of the big questions is, how do we make this more a spectator sport? And I guess everybody's coming to the conclusions that the drones need to be bigger so that people can see them. An X class, to some degree, answers those questions. I think we're going to need canopies on there. If the sport's going to really grow and become professional, you're going to need space for sponsors to be able to be on the vehicles just like any other sport. But I think X Class is really interesting, and it's growing very quickly. In the US, it's becoming much, much bigger, and a lot of people seem to be experimenting with building their X Class style drones. And I've not gone down that route yet. I'm still catching up with the current trend. I've just bought a frame from Menace and some new motors, and trying to bring myself up to date with that. And but I'll certainly be giving X Class a go, I think, in next year. I just wanted to say, just because we've talked about the UK drone show, I just want to mention how important that event was. I think that event was this past weekend, because for the first time, that was a true international event in the UK. And I go to events all over the country, and it's nearly always the same pilots. The UK, you get your Banny UK and you Gary Kent and Brett Collis and all of these pilots, and we all know how good they are. But it's very rare in the UK to see the UK pilots actually up against the best in the world. And Min Chan Kim is the best pilot in the world at the moment, without any shadow of a doubt.
Amazing.
And to see Min Chan Kim and Alex Van Over, and Sushan Park there, as well as a lot of pilots from Europe as well. You had the Dutch champion, and
Leo was there as well.
Incredible. And I think it was a bit of a wake-up call for the UK scene, who have been a little bit isolated and feeling that they're doing really good, to see the quality of international competition and international pilots. And I think maybe now we'll see some UK pilots up in their game a bit. I think it was really important. I think it's about time that there has an international element in the UK, and fair play to Ollie for putting that event on and making sure those international pilots attended. I think it was really important.
Just on that, Nigel, we should really mention the Platinum Cup last year, because obviously that wasn't true racing, but as far as eSports go, that was the first that Rotor Rush had a world competition, and we brought all those pilots in. Perhaps you'd like to, and we're talking about doing one this coming year as well.
That was the first drone racing eSport ever in the world. Again, we could have done a better job of advertising it, but we ran qualifiers all around the world, and we had a pilot from Mexico, India, Australia, US. Nelson came over from US, one from Austria, and obviously we had a pilot from the UK. And we flew them all over to the UK, which was the gaming event that we held the finals at.
ESL.
DSL, in London. And we were on ESL's live stage. In fact, the Rotor Rush finals was just before the UK finals for the Counter-Strike, which was pretty cool. And that was the first ever eSport competition for drone racing. That was a stressful weekend.
Pretty cool, though.
Now these guys tell me that this year's UK drone show was a disappointment, and for me it wasn't, because I couldn't go 5 minutes without chatting to somebody who was a subscriber and wanted to take a selfie and stuff like that. And by the way, if I put a message out there, because I had so many selfies, if you guys had a selfie with me, then put it on Facebook, put it on Instagram, tag me in it. The general sort of consensus was that it wasn't as popular as 2 years ago, and I find that sad. But I do think 2 years ago there was a hype in drones, and now it's sort of leveled off. And
I think that's probably what it was. I mean, it felt bigger a couple of years ago. There was more stands, more people. The track and everything was really, really good, though.
To me, I was gutted because I didn't get to speak to Banny, who I've always been a fan of, and Kelsey and Gary. And for me, though, I didn't see all the stalls and stuff like that. But maybe that's just my situation. But
if you put it in context. I mean, to be fair, this is was it the 4th or 5th UK drone show? And there has been a dip. Tony's absolutely right. And I think that's because there's not as much media hype around it anymore. I mean, it was a big thing when Banny won in Dubai and all the news wanted him and everything else. But so it's leveled off a bit. But the fact that Oliver is, still able to put on the UK drone show, despite the dip in excitement over drones, is a good thing. And I hope it continues, because it shows like that give the smaller independents like Make It Build It and Menace and stuff a chance to show off what they're doing and be seen. I think it's an important show. It might have not been as exciting as some people would have liked, but the fact that it was even there is I think it shows that the hobby's not going anywhere, the sport's not going anywhere. It's going to continue to grow. And it's a big risk for Oliver to put on an event like that, because you have to put that money up beforehand. I mean, it's really expensive to put on an event there. And the fact that he's took that risk year after year, I think is a great thing. I mean, you can tell I'm a big fan of Oliver's, because he works really hard and he doesn't get a lot of credit for it. And I think he deserves a lot of credit, because I think it was a great show. And it's only going to get better and bigger.
I'm not aware of Oliver, actually. I thought I met Simon Newton, and on the kitchen table, I thought he had a lot to do with it. Is that not the case?
No, the event is Oliver O'Brien. So he gets a lot of help from a lot of people. He reached out to the guys at BDRA, and Ben, who I think is probably the best race director in the UK now, without any doubt. He came down with the whole kit and the track and put that up, and he asked Elliot to do the live stream, and everybody chips in. But they only do that because Oliver's proved in the past that he's a great person to work with, and he puts on a good show and he does his very best. Oliver behind the scenes has been supporting the sport and the hobby in this country for many years, but he doesn't shout about it. He just gets on and does it.
Yeah,
I think one thing as well that was a bit of a struggle, because I was trying to film some of the event, is when the racing was going on, they had screens up, but they were like 7 frames per second, and I think that needs to be improved. Obviously, it was indoors and there's a lot of processing going on, but I think that needs to be improved for it to be more of a spectator sport as well.
There's a lot of improvements. If you watch the IDSC competition that was in South Korea in November, they did a lot of things there that have answered a lot of the questions on Spectator. The best thing, I don't know if anyone's seen any of the video from that event, but they had a glass screen in front of the pilot. So the pilot sat on a podium and there was this glass screen impregnated with LEDs. And as the pilots walked out, these LEDs showed, they were, I guess it's sort of like a TV, if you like, a very low resolution TV. But they showed the national flag of each pilot as he walked out. And then underneath the pilot, then it showed the colour of what drone they were flying. So there was no doubt when you were watching that racing who was who. Because even though the LEDs at the NEC this weekend were easy to see and it was easy to follow the racing, it was still difficult to decide who was who. And unless you remembered from the big start of the race that Min Chan Kim had the red LEDs, for example, and Banny had the blue, you could quite easily lose the action. Whereas in Korea, you looked over at the pilot, so you could clearly see through this glass screen, and you could see which colour LEDs they were flying, what country they were from, what race team they flew for, because it was all displayed on this screen, which was amazing. I recommend you have a look. It was an incredible event.
We're slightly over time, so Tony, do you want to do the shout outs to the people in the chat?
Yeah,
there's no such thing as out of time.
There is
time isn't real. It's
an illusion, isn't it?
It's an illusion, and yeah.
Well,
so
the time is, I've got to go up bed and get up for work. So there's the illusion is real for me.
Yeah.
I had 2 hours sleep last night, so I don't believe you, Tony.
It doesn't show.
I want to say a big, massive shout out to RDFPV who dropped $24 in the super chat. So thank you very much. As always, he seems to just drop us money every time we go live, and I don't know
Even
why.
when we were filming in the wrong aspect ratio for 14 seconds before the phone ran out of battery.
So thank you. Clive FBV, MC Creations, Richard Warwick, Bill M, Mikey Dread. It was really good seeing you, Mikey, at the weekend.
Mikey was awesome. Mikey was awesome.
Rob Britton is in the chat. I'm just trying to scroll up. Win Davis, hello. Dave Story's in the chat.
Why wasn't Win at the NEC? It's close to.
I don't know. It's too far for him to come.
It's not too far. He's based in. I'm sure.
Night Train SPV.
Issues.
Scott Watson. Loads of people in chat. I can't scroll up anymore. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Especially RDFBV. Thank you so much.
Yes, anyway, thank you to all our patrons as well, and thank you to all our listeners for listening to this another episode of Let's Drone Out. Come back next week when we'll be talking about a little bit of news about the competency tests and registration that's coming in on the A&O amendments, and maybe have a couple other special guests to talk about that. But you know, this is LDO.
Also, thank you to everybody that came up to us and chatted to us as LDO.
Yeah,
you know,
and bought beanies and said thanks for doing the show, and
that
we
was
appreciate it. Yeah,
that was just amazing, and yeah, quite an emotional experience for me because we all put a lot of work into this, and to meet the people that actually watch and appreciate the show and what we do was pretty amazing.
It was nice.
So thank you to everybody for that.
And if you do have any photos, post them up on Facebook and everywhere else.
Yeah, please do.
Let us know. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Au revoir.
Good night.